It's just somebody that doesn't know what they're looking at. They don't know how to describe what the buttons are, what page they're on, right? Whether that's an older demographic or someone who's just unfamiliar with the digital portal, that visual context of what is going on is incredibly helpful.
Thank you all for joining us for another episode of Deep Learning with PolyAI. We're here to help CX leaders get a window into the latest and greatest developments in AI. I'm your guest host, Jenn Cunningham, subbing in for Nicola today, bringing you insights from our friends at CoBrowse to discuss integrated agentic capabilities for customer service. Now, have to encourage you to like, subscribe, 5-star rating on your podcast app of choice. And now I will be introducing in Zaccari Scalzi. Thanks so much for joining us, Zach. How are you?
Doing well, Jen. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, excited to chat today. I guess for a bit of background on this episode, I was just creeping on our different project Slack channels, saw a really exciting demo with CoBrowse, and I said, we have to talk about this on the podcast. So Zach, would you mind introducing yourself and talking a little bit about what CoBrowse is, what you do?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Director of Sales over here at cobrowse. We've been around for about 8 years. The product that you saw today is very different than the legacy product that we've gone to market with. So to give a little bit of context, cobrowse is collaborative browsing software. So it's basically a way for remote employees to see what's happening on end user devices. Traditionally, we've been installed in contact centers for support. So think about, calling into your bank, your insurance provider on your mobile app or on your website. Our product allows those agents to see what's happening on your screen, annotate, guide you through to resolution, and help troubleshoot with you. Fast forward 8 years. Now our product is focused on enhancing AI with the same level of visibility. So basically taking that same window into the customer's experience and grounding AI models with that knowledge so that it's not just a lookup bot, right? We're not just looking at knowledge-based articles, taking that information and responding back anymore. What our product allows AI and virtual agents to do is actually understand what the customer is looking at, what error messages they're facing, and actually helping uniquely guide that client, given the information it understands, through to resolution.
Yeah, which makes sense. From our end, when we're thinking about customer service conversations, we're always thinking of how can we plug into new knowledge sources and different kind of sources of information in the background. I know everyone is kind of looking for one common brain, right, or knowledge base that they can maintain. But I think you're able to take a really interesting approach where, users or agents can actually really see what the users are seeing in real time. So everyone's aligned and on the same page.
Exactly. Yeah. Sometimes, simplicity is key, and no matter how much data, small little mistakes tend to kind of throw a wrench in the gears. So simple things like somebody forgetting to put the right format for an email address, right? That might be missed within the troubleshooting of a knowledge-based lookup and transmission back to an end user. Simple visibility says, hey, you're missing an at symbol or you're missing a period, right? It's a small piece that comes into play, but it makes a really large impact when it comes to accurately troubleshooting and guiding through to that resolution.
Absolutely. Because I know really when there's the gap between what the AI knows and what's actually happening, that's where you have issues. And so AI consistently performs best when it has the most context possible. And so really, I think your software is fantastic because you're able to close that loop.
Yeah.
Um,
Even looking at human agents and virtual agents, no matter how great the human agent is, if the end user can't accurately communicate what's happening on a platform that they're not really familiar with, that's where that kind of process breaks down. So providing that context is definitely really helpful.
100%. And so with PolyAI, we're really specialized in customer service AI across phone and digital channels. CoBrowse, you're really specialized on having this kind of additional video capability or visual capability to your customer service, right? I think for us, we've really found because we're specialized, we're able to handle more complex use cases because we know we aren't just looking at one broad model for everything. We're looking at what do people actually need to tackle for customer service and what does good look like in a customer service context, which is really what's good or what's best as opposed to, something more broad based. But how
Yeah.
do you feel about specialized solutions?
Yeah. I mean, I think we're in line with our go-to-market messaging there. Complex use cases is where people get more value out of visibility, right? If somebody is sitting there trying to reset a password, chances are that knowledge-based lookup and the transmission back is pretty simplistic. When you look at kind of one AI or one system to do it all, it's the same messaging that people have dealt with in the support center, right? If you have one CCaaS product that does everything, it's not going to be the best at anything. When you have the ability to combine forces with PolyAI and CoBrowse, right, the best in class solutions with what they've gone to market to do, that's where that becomes really a powerful solution. So I think combining all of that information, all of that functionality underneath one roof with a seamless integration is the best path versus just trying to find one AI that's good enough to kind of get by.
Yeah, right. Because when I think about the limitations for AI technology. So a couple weeks ago, my oven broke. I called up the customer service number, but I was on hold for about 45 minutes. And so during that time, I was on ChatGPT and I'm like, it's making this weird noise. It's not heating stuff up. I don't know what's going on. And ChatGPT gave me a list of potential issues, but only I knew from then going to the company's website, seeing what my model was, right? Seeing what that additional information is. I was able to say, okay, I'm pretty sure this is the issue. So then by the time I spoke to the customer service agent after 45 minutes, I was able to say, this is what's going on. I'm pretty sure this is what you need to send someone out for.
Yep.
Right. You need that complexity because I think the broad-based solutions don't always work. And
Mhm.
also the models change, right? Which makes another issue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think as far as like the, ChatGPT has obviously gone to market with some really strong solutions. It's
absolutely.
one solution that can do a lot. But I think, again, when you start combining the needs and requirements of specific companies, it's not enough to kind of cover the broad strokes. I mean, ChatGPT specifically has come out with some really cool technologies. They've definitely blazed the trail for a lot of different companies. But I think one that comes to mind is their operator system. I think it launched in like January earlier this year, which has the ability to look at these sites and kind of tries to solve the same thing that CoBrowse has inherently done here. But there's a difference in styles of technology, which happy to jump into. But I think what it boils down to is broad strokes versus very specific tools for specific problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for us. So we have our own model Raven that is specifically focused for customer service capabilities. So when you're thinking of more LLM wrapper companies, um, the model changes, your logic may change, your solution may change. Since we have full control over our model and we have visibility into our deployments, we already know, how are we optimizing every time to make sure things work and keep working in production. But so from a co-browse perspective, can you walk us through a scenario where, traditional bot guidance just falls apart and what does that handoff actually look like in reality?
Yeah, great question. So I think it's really kind of where the context of the situation matters, right? There's a lot of simple probes where a forgotten password, right? That you can just pretty accurately say, hey, hit this button, you get the email, click the link. 3 steps to resolution doesn't really add much complexity to it. Where our product has found a lot of value is not only the multi-step, multimodal, start on the website, go to the application, there's another domain, right? There's a lot of complexity that goes through specific journeys. But I think as far as the improvement in troubleshooting and providing accurate resolutions becomes more of a factor when there's alternative recommendations based on configurations, right? If this account is set up this way, you have to take this path. If it's set up another way, it's a completely different resolution path. It's at that point where there's a deterministic, hey, this is not the right resolution that you're giving me, and you're looking around for a button, right? The other day, I'm trying to hide a gift I got for my wife from Amazon, right? I know that there's a way to archive these orders, but I can't figure out how to do it. And I'm on my mobile device. Digging through enough knowledge base articles, you go on and you're saying, oh, you actually have to be on a desktop, right? The difference right there makes a huge outcome. The bot
Yeah.
was trying to tell me, like, there is a way to do this. I'm like, that button doesn't exist. So it's those scenarios, I think, where our product and that insight and that, we're coining the term like visual intelligence is really kind of a big player.
No, absolutely. And when you're thinking of that visual intelligence, the live context, what is the AI actually seeing? How does it know what's clickable or where someone would be stuck?
Great question. So backing up a little bit on the core product that CoBrowse has gone to market with, we have been with a lot of different Fortune 100 companies. It's enterprise grade. We've been battle tested. So how our product works is our SDK gets installed within the web application or a mobile native application. We support both channels. When that SDK is installed, you're basically predefining what the human agent, or in this situation, a virtual agent, can and cannot see. What domains are visible, what pages are visible. We also have fine-grained data redaction when it comes to billing information, any sort of PII that exists. And how our product works is it's not just like a video, right? If I share my screen on a Zoom or Teams, it's a visual transmission of what I'm looking at. There are some solutions out there that throw a black box up on there and they're like, hey, agents can't see it. Our product is what's considered a DOM-based approach. So we actually understand the page structure behind the application. So it's not just a visual transmission. What that means is normally we would take that page structure and then re-render it for the agent, whether that's a human or virtual agent. With that fine-grained redaction, we block data at the end user's device. So that
Okay.
credit card information, that name, that address never gets transmitted through our servers. In the virtual agent, that means there's very strict guidelines on what it can and cannot access, and all of that's predefined during setup.
That's fantastic. So when you're thinking through the governance in different use cases, it's tailored to how are you protecting PII? I'm assuming also how are you handling different government regulations as well, beyond just guiding PII, making sure you're following kind of the latest and greatest, all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's always the first topic of conversation that comes up with our clients. So at the first mark, we offer two different provided services. We have a hosted service and we have a self-hosted service. On the hosted side, we have all of our abbreviations, our SOC 2, our ISO, our GDPR, our CCPA, our HIPAA, PCI, the list goes on. A lot of companies within financial services, insurance, healthcare, telecom really want to own all the data. In that situation, we also do support self-hosting on AWS, GCP, and Azure, which allows them to maintain all data ownership with zero phone home back to our servers. So between that and the data redaction that's stopping the information actually at the end user's device, it's just a way of going to market that has more of a data minimalization approach versus let's just open up the fire hose and let the AI drink as much as it can.
Absolutely. Especially because you never know from our side when we're handling conversations, especially over the phone, people will say anything, right? And so you can't just be prepared for, oh, these are the given use cases. I think you never know what someone's going to say. You never know what's going to be on the other side of that screen. And so to make sure that you're able to support even the most sensitive of conversations, you have to take that more holistic approach.
Exactly. And so that's where, we were talking about ChatGPT a little bit with the operator approach. There are other ways of sharing screens that don't involve installing, an SDK. But if you don't do that, the other approach here is proxying traffic, right? We're routing all of the end user's device through this server. In that scenario, there isn't the same level of guardrails, right? If I go to my, Bank of America account, or if I go over somewhere I shouldn't go, we're off the rails. Everything within these, whether it's a human or AI approach, is really on the rails of what has been predefined as okay from the enterprise like governance perspective.
That's such a relief. So if I'm ever calling up customer service and we're seeing an integrated, and I'm working on an integrated system with CoBrowse, I know my data's in good hands.
Yeah,
Um, so if we take a step back and then think, okay, conversation is not successful, or we can't resolve the conversation, we need a handoff to an agent.
of
Um,
course.
where does the AI to human handoff happen? What makes a good handoff in this sort of scenario?
Great question. And I also want to maybe reframe it a little bit too, because it's not just that this AI failed, right?
Yeah.
People think about containment as like this end all, hey, let's make sure that 95% of these conversations are contained within AI. I think AI is incredibly powerful, but there's always going to be a number of cases or, explanations that need to happen that need that like emotional connection to a human. So I think it's really important to have this handover be as seamless as possible, whether it is, hey, I wasn't able to solve my problem, or maybe I just have additional questions that I need answered that, I'm not able to get from this interaction.
Yeah.
Within that scenario, I know Polly does, great summarization of things that have happened. That plus the context of the screen now. And so they can say, hey, this person is on XYZ domain. They're struggling with login. They've tried 3 times. There's this error message that's popped up. All of that combined with that. So the human agent can pick up the phone. We get the quick, 20, 30-second download of what's going on with that context. And they're able to pick up right where that AI has left off.
No, absolutely. And you raised a good point. I was on a webinar that we did a year ago, shameless plug, on the importance of resolution, right? But it's not just, okay, we've contained the call. How do we resolve the call? Um, but with that as well, I think it's how can we also set those agents up for success? Like being a CSR is a really, really hard job. And so the more you can do to make your agents successful and make their job easier, the better you're going to see in terms of technology adoption, the happier your customers are going to be, and just the better experiences you're going to be able to provide. Um, You've mentioned accessibility a bit. So also, how does visual grounding help when someone has, say, an accent or they can't describe what they're seeing? We're quite good with accents, but I think when you're looking at accent and then you have additional context in terms of a screen or a visual aid, it's a
Mhm.
different type of conversation, right?
Yeah. I mean, given our interaction, this is completely on the poly side with the accents. Your system has done incredibly well. We've done a lot of testing there. I think what our product helps with is just the lack of ability to communicate. So it's not even the accent that understands it. It's just somebody that doesn't know what they're looking at. They don't know how to describe what the buttons are, what page they're on, right? Whether that's an older demographic or someone who's just unfamiliar with the digital portal, that visual context of what is going on is incredibly helpful. So kudos to the poly team on the accents, but I think when it comes to just lack of communication in general, that's more where our product is able to support.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the main theme of this conversation is how can we provide the most context as possible to AI and what is kind of integrating AI solutions to enhance the customer experience using all of the touch points you have available. Um,
Absolutely.
so as we're thinking about these kind of integrated solutions, if anyone's kind of, if their wheels are kind of turning, if they're thinking about this, I mean, there are so many different applications for customer service AI. Where do you see the best possible use cases or applications for this kind of joint technology?
Ooh, good question.
Yeah.
I would say it's really the more complex use cases that are multi-step, multimodal, and there's optionality throughout the resolution path, right? If there's one predetermined, even if it's 12 steps, you do step one, two, three, four, and they go right through, right? But we work with, let's talk about like a bank use case, right? You all are in the support center. If I call in and I'm trying to apply for a mortgage, based on what I select, it's going to change the path that I'm going down. And so this step one, two, three, four, five, I'm no longer following. I'm over here in left field. So I think the versatility of resolution path makes for a really fun solve for both Poly and CoBrowse. And that's really the wow moments. Like even our best human agents wouldn't know if you select option A, there was three options hiding behind that. But again, because our product understands the page structure, we know what's coming next because your product has the ability to, talk through these complex paths. Now we've joined those solutions. It's like mirroring like your best agent possible.
Absolutely. That's our hope, right? We want the best agent, we want the best experience. It's always the goal. And products change, right? We've rolled out omni-channel earlier this year as a more formal offering. How are you staying aligned from a co-browse perspective, to make sure that everything stays functional and everything's staying consistent as you continue, to just enhance your capabilities?
Yeah. I might take this question in a different direction because my
Oh,
brain just sparked up. So changing in products. We've talked with a lot of enterprise clients that are trying to understand like how can we feed the right information back into our AI, right? Co-browse is obviously the best option, but the other option here is basically installing a number of different APIs within your product to feed that information out of the back end into the AI model so that it kind of understands what's happening. As products change, right? You just rolled out some new functionality, the UI changes, the UX changes. All of the knowledge base articles need to be updated. If you took the API routes, you have to update all of those APIs. The beauty of the simplicity of CoBrowse's SDK is every time we start a session, we're looking at that page structure again. If something has changed, we're feeding new and relevant information back to that AI model. And so it's not just this constant treadmill of trying to keep up with changes and making sure that your AI is aware of it. This SDK actually grounds it in reality of what is in front of it today versus what it is looking at in the knowledge base. So I think not exactly probably the path you wanted to take with that question, but popped in my head there.
no, I think it's a good way to think about it. For us, we're kind of companies are like changing their knowledge bases and they're changing their data. That's a problem that we're always trying to solve for. How are we making everything relevant? So it's great that you're just starting there, right? And it's just what is right in front of you. So I know we talked a bit about resolution. Um, when we're looking at these integrated solutions, what do you really see as success, or how do you define success for this scenario? What metrics actually matter when you're measuring if something's working?
Yeah. Um, Traditionally, looking at the co-browsing product, I think whether we're talking about an AI, human or just a straight up human, um, the question isn't just what metrics, but it's what business, strategy we're aligning with. Traditionally, people were coming into us saying, "Hey, my call center metrics aren't good. I want to improve them." Okay, right. We talk about handle time, resolution rate, satisfaction rates. The conversation has evolved both on the human and AI side, which is not just can we resolve the problem quickly and the customer's happy, but it's can we prevent that problem from coming back in the future. So there's this level of digital kind of adoption, user education that happens throughout these scenarios because our MCP plugged into Poly basically enables two different pieces of functionality: visibility, but also the kind of like hand holding through resolution. So we're highlighting on the screen, we're guiding them through to resolution. And so they're the ones driving. Through that action, they're teaching themselves how to use that digital portal in a more effective manner. We have a lot of clients that see reduction in call volumes overall year over year. We see that there's less of a, resource dependency when it comes to, hey, I need to do this one thing every month. My bill changed. Why did it change? Oh, I remember last month, when I talked with their AI bot, it actually showed me how to do that. So there's this new kind of long tail evolution of this visual intelligence, which isn't just the call center metrics, but it's actually like less dependency year over year on that team to, constantly do those same tasks because they're learning along the way.
Absolutely. You're better able to educate customers, right? And so they're better able to self-serve in a new way, beyond just kind of pointing them to the right page on the website. Fantastic. So what is one thing that you've learned from customers using this that really surprised you as you're better teaching and training your customers' customers?
The complexity that exists within this space continues to amaze me.
Um,
um, I think what is really interesting is the level of effort required behind the scenes to make these virtual agents accurate and understand without this style of technology. We came to market and we thought we had something that was really valuable. We thought it was really cool. We spun up some great demos. We launched it with a few clients. But it wasn't until those conversations 3 to 6 months after launch that they were like, you have no idea how much time this has saved me. You have no idea how many different tasks that I don't have to do anymore because of the information that you're feeding these virtual agents, right? Knowledge bases are still important. Those are never going to go away. But, grounding it with imagery or specific instructions on how to do those different things are no longer responsible for it. So I think for me, that's been the biggest shocker is just how much this has actually impacted our clients and not just the end users. I always kind of thought like, oh, the end user would be like, wow, this is really cool. Like they're on my screen and they could show me how to click. But I really didn't think about the operational overhead and the inefficiencies that existed without this technology.
Absolutely. It relieves a major burden. For us, something that I've loved to see from our customers, both thinking of kind of integrated capabilities and just standalone, is being able to adjust for the customer themselves. Like we do a lot of work with hearing aid companies, so they have customers who are deaf and hard of hearing. And how are you navigating customer service conversations, especially over the phone in those scenarios? How are you, again, providing context? How are you meeting the customer where they are? Um, and that just it requires additional nuance that again I don't think you get from a fully general out of the box solution. It needs to be tailored and specialized. So for our CX leaders listening in, who may be thinking about agentic systems rather than, let's plug in one solution here, think about one solution here. What is the one thing you think that they really need to understand on how these technologies need to work together?
Oof. I think the best thing that I can tell them is that the planning of this all is key. I think when I talk with companies, they try to plan, but not in a directional manner, right? They start talking about like all these things that they want to achieve, and then there's like individual takeaways. When you're in that room of everybody that needs to be a part of the conversation, take a couple of, sample user journeys, right? One ticket that's consistently stumping your AI and say, why is this stumping it? How do we fix it? Where is it getting hung up? Using user journeys to test your assumptions around how these should work or what should be performing always makes for a much more fruitful and actionable conversation. I think that's why I see a lot of enterprise companies that have these broad AI strategies that just don't move very fast There
Yeah.
aren't those actionable next steps. It's like, oh, let's take it away and test it. We'll put it out there. Let's see how it works. It's like you can do a lot of that internally with the correct prompting. So like find those user journeys, take those key learnings and make those your next steps. If I can provide just some general advice outside of just the co-browse AI side.
No, absolutely. And I think it's really making sure you have flexible solutions that you can integrate and you can have and create agentic systems. I think both of our solutions are quite easy to integrate with. So
Mhm.
you're really able to have easy integrations, basically plug into a current AI strategy with MCP, which is great. Yeah. Well, Zachary, thank you so much. This has been so fun. I know we have a fun surprise for our listeners, where we're actually going to show a demo
Mhm.
that we'll kind of be plugging in, so you can get a sense of what these joint capabilities can look like and maybe spark some ideas for how this might be applicable for your own unique use cases and businesses.
Yeah, I think it's the proof is in the pudding. I think a lot of these conversations in general can be a little bit of like a gray area until you see it actually in action. So, kind of to set the stage for what this demo is going to highlight is what a interaction looks like when somebody engages with Poly AI, right? They say, "Hey, I understand what your problem is." There's going to be a certain point within this workflow that the AI says, "Actually, it'd be much easier if I can understand what you're looking at to help you guide you." At that point, what will happen is the AI will request screen share with variable consent prompts. Once that's allowed is when that SDK gets involved. So it's not like every single interaction our SDK is being fired up and the AI just sees everything that's happening. It is always consent driven. So once that consent is given, the AI starts looking at what page they're on, what error message they're feeling, and that's where the back and forth between PolyAI and our MCP start kind of doing their magic.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, let's jump in.
Hi there, how can I help you?
Yeah, I'm looking for some help understanding why my bill for November was much higher than previous months.
We can check the billing details to see what caused that increase. Would you like to start a screen sharing session so I can guide you through it?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Great. At the bottom left of your screen, there should be a Generate Support Code button. Could you click that and share the 6-digit code with me?
180509.
Thanks for that. Let's take a look at your billing details to see what changed in November. Let me guide you to where we can check that. Thanks. Now we should see a breakdown of your billing details. Let's look for the billing history or charges section. All right, now we should see the detailed charges for November. Let me check what's shown. It looks like the big difference is from international roaming charges of about $97.50. Let me know if you'd like help updating your plan to avoid those charges in the future, or if there's anything else you'd like to explore first.
Yeah, can you help me add on international roaming for James and Emma?
Sure. Let's close this bill details pop-up first, so we can move to updating your plan. Thanks. Now we'll go to the plan management section to add the international roaming add-on for James and Emma. Great. Now we're in the plan management section. Let's click update plan so we can add the international roaming feature for James and Emma. All right, now we should see options for managing add-ons or upgrading plans. Let me check what's available. We're currently on the plan selection step. Since we only want to add international roaming as an add-on, let's click Continue to move forward to the add-ons page. Now we should be on the add-ons page. Let's find the international roaming option and apply it to James and Emma's lines. All right, now we'll adjust the add-on so it only applies to James and Emma. Let's find that customization option next. We might need to confirm on the review screen if we can customize it per line. Let's click Continue to check that. We can uncheck Sarah and Tyler's lines so only James and Emma get the add-on. Let's do that now. Great, now only James and Emma will have the add-on. Let's click Continue to proceed to the payment step. I'll check the options we have now. We're at the payment step. You'll need to fill in your card details and your account PIN to complete the changes. Let me know if you need any help with that. Once you've entered your payment info and PIN, go ahead and click the $156.00 button to finalize the changes. The plan change was successful, and the charges have been processed. You're all set with the new add-ons for James and Emma. Anything else I can help with?
No, that's it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
Awesome demo. Love it, love it, love it. So similar to what I saw in Slack, I'm excited to now share kind of with the wider audience. Zaccari, thank you so much for joining us. If people are curious about kind of leveraging these layered technologies, what's the best way to kind of move forward? How should they be thinking about it?
Yeah, of course. You can go to cobrowse.io. We have a brand new AI page that is sparkling new. If you would like to, you can also request a custom demo where we can actually install our MCP within your virtual agents to start testing that workflow within your digital portals. Or if you want, send a quick email to hello@cobrowse.io and it'll go out to my entire sales team.
Awesome. No, that's fantastic. And obviously, you can always reach us through PolyAI as well, just poly.ai. Request a demo or reach out to our team. And we'll make sure, so long as you mention you're interested in understanding capabilities with CoBrowse, we'll make sure to kind of have a joint conversation there. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and looking forward to chatting soon.
Of course. Thanks for having me on, Jen.